Y'all, this whole Kyren Lacy situation got me sick to my stomach, y'all. I can't even lie. Reading how this young black man was framed for causing a car accident that left a 78-year-old man unalived. It made me like, I promise y'all, I had my stomach turning. Seriously. My heart aches for his parents. You know, as a parent myself, when you recognize your child is on the brink of achieving their lifelong dreams and they have those dreams snatched away from them because some evil people in this world wanted to frame him for no reason. It makes me sick, man. Kyren Lacy is still supposed to be here. Kyren Lacy is still supposed to be here, and he's supposed to be in the NFL thriving. Kyren Lacy is supposed to be a man who's not condemned. He's supposed to be a young man enjoying his life and enjoying his career. But unfortunately, because of some state police, because of a woman who was complicit in lying and trying to save her own ass, and because of a man who had it out for Kyren Lacy, a police officer who had it in for him, simply due to jealousy, racism, etc., Kyren Lacy is no longer here, man. Like, this whole situation, reading about it, man, it had me all messed up, right? So some of you all may not know who Kyren Lacy is. But Kyren Lacy was a standout wide receiver, a standout football player at Louisiana State University, right? One of the top receivers in the country in 2024. Playing in the SEC conference, one of the best conferences, he amassed, 58 catches for 866 yards and 9 touchdowns. He probably would have had even better stats had he been allowed to play in the Texas Bowl win over Baylor, right? But because of the crash that they lied and said he caused, because of that crash that they lied and said he caused, he had to sit that game out, right? But Kyren Lacy had all the intangibles to be a great receiver in the NFL. He was tall, 6'2". He was a great deep threat. He had speed. Like I mentioned, he had great size. You know, he was going to be a draft pick without question, right? However, on December 17, 2024, Kyren Lacy's life changed forever for the worse over something that he did not do. And all I could think about, I got these images of me reading his father's Facebook page, his father, Kenny Lacy. And his father is telling a lot of people, y'all owe my baby an apology. Y'all owe my baby an apology because you condemned that man's child and made his child be a villain. Public enemy number one over something people lied about. Like, they lied on him. They lied on him. They absolutely lied on him. And it's heinous, man. For real. And I know a lot of people, we can only go off what the media gives us and what police gives us. But there are police officers who lie, who frame people unjustly, and there's been a long history of that happening. Black men being framed for things that they did not do. You know, it's been a long history of that. And so it's no shocker, but it's still disgusting. So on December 17th, state police, Louisiana police, accused Kyren Lacy of driving recklessly, which resulted in a fatal car crash in Louisiana, which unalived a 78-year-old man. Now, this 78-year-old man, I believe he was a veteran, right? He was a veteran, and you know how the media and everybody in society acts like they care about veterans in America, but they really don't, because if they do, a lot of the veterans would not be homeless. They would not be without all type of health care, etc. They wouldn't be out on the street the way they are. But people like to act like they care about veterans in order to push certain narratives all the time. The same way they tried to act like they love veterans when they didn't want Colin Kaepernick kneeling, etc., and made it seem like he was disrespecting veterans, etc., and they knew he wasn't. And they tried to act like they love veterans so much but veterans don't even get the proper necessities that they need in this country after fighting or serving the country, you know? But people love to act like they care about veterans at certain times, right? And I want to get the man's name who was unalived in an accident. I wrote it down. Excuse me, you all. His name was Herman Hall, right? 78-year-old Herman Hall. So anyway, not anyway, let's go on. So they accused Kyren Lacy of driving recklessly, which resulted in a fatal car crash and the unaliving of 78-year-old Herman Hall. Now, the investigators accused Kyren Lacy of speeding and making an illegal pass in a no-passing zone. They accused Kyren Lacy of making an illegal pass in a no-passing zone, and they accused him of speeding. Okay? They also said that Kyren Lacy fled the scene of the crash without calling authorities or any emergency services. They saying, hey, you left without calling 911, knowing that you caused an accident that left a man unalived. They left a man deceased. Okay? So then prosecutors issued an arrest warrant for young Kyren Lacy. They were charging Kyren Lacy with negligent homicide, felony hit and run, and reckless operation of a vehicle. Right? So at this point, Kyren Lacy is just scared. He's scared for his life. Kyren Lacy was arrested on January 12th after he himself agreed to turn himself in. And then he was released on bond. He was released on bail that same day on a $151,000 bail. And he was awaiting his day in court. Right? However, after the arrest, things went further downhill for Kyren Lacy. You see, what happened was NFL scouts stopped calling. NFL teams backed away from Kyren Lacy despite his talent and despite everything that he had done at LSU. Because all of this is not immediate aftermath, but in 2021, I believe, Henry Ruggs, a player for the Raiders, was drinking and driving, and he unalived, I think it was a woman, I believe. He left a person unalived after he was drinking and driving. And I think her car exploded in flames or something like that after the car accident, after the crash. And he left the woman deceased. Henry Ruggs, again, he was drinking and all of that. Kyren Lacy was not drinking, none of the sort. You know, but still, a lot of teams was wanting to back away from players that, you know, if you're getting charged with some type of vehicular homicide or people saying, hey, you left a person deceased due to you driving reckless. A lot of NFL teams, they didn't want, you know, they didn't want any connection to that. They thought it would be bad press. So they stopped calling him and everything, right? Therefore, instead of preparing for the NFL draft, Mr. Kyren Lacy, instead of preparing for the NFL combine like most NFL prospects do, Kyren Lacy was preparing to go to trial. While awaiting trial, however, 2 days before he was set to meet with the grand jury, tragedy struck. On April 12, 2025, Kyren Lacy got into a verbal argument with a family member, right? Which resulted in Kyren Lacy discharging a firearm into the ground. Him and his family member got into a verbal altercation. He discharged a firearm into the ground. He, you know, shot into the ground, right? And after that, I think authorities were alerted and he jumped into his vehicle, right? He jumped into his vehicle to flee the scene. Now, what I believe is Kyren Lacy probably got into a verbal argument with one of his family members, and the pressure of what was happening to him, and the pressure of like him being accused of a crime he didn't do, the pressure of his world falling down upon him led him to shoot into the ground. He didn't shoot anybody, he shot into the ground, but it had him just his head everywhere. He was, you know, he was nervous, he was scared, all of the sort. Got into a verbal altercation with his cousin, and then shot into the ground. Authorities were alerted. Kyren Lacy fled the scene. A vehicle pursuit with police occurred, lasting a couple miles until Kyren Lacy's car crashed. Now, what police came to find out is that Kyren Lacy's car crashed because Kyren took his own life with that same gun he shot, you know, which he used to shoot into the ground. He took his own life while police were trying to follow him after he shot into the ground. Kyren Lacy, that baby was scared, man. You know? And I sound like, the older black women when they call young kids babies. But, that young man was scared he was scared. He felt like his life was over. He felt like everything he worked hard for was done for. All because people were lying on him, right? He felt like my world is upside down, my future gone. Where do I go from here? I got into this argument with my cousin. I'm going through all these different emotions. I shot into the ground out of just lashing out a little bit. And now the police are on me. And now this is a few days before trial. They're gonna give me the worst possible verdict ever. They're gonna give me the worst possible verdict in this situation ever. And he's like, I'm not going to the NFL anymore. I'm not gonna be able to make the money I want to make to even be able to fight this whole situation like that. And he took his own life, right? Now that whole thing is just like, it made me sick when you find out this young man was innocent, But he took his own life, and they know he took his own life in the car because, body cam and dash cam revealed that no shot was fired after the pursuit ended. So it happened while he was, fleeing. He was running and he was driving away from the scene. After that, he was driving away from the scene where he shot into the ground, right? However, after his death, after Kyren Lacy's death, his legal team, and I gotta give them all the credit in the world, his legal team fought to clear his name. And I love that. I love that. Because a lot of people's legal team would say, hey, Kyren's, he's no longer here. They would just give up and let it go. They saying, no, we're going to fight to clear his name. He's innocent. And Kyren Lacy's attorney, what is his attorney's name, man? I believe it's Matt Ory. Matt Ory. All respect to Matt Ory. His attorney was not playing. Matt Ory maintained his client's innocence, and in an interview with Homa, in an interview with Homa, Louisiana station HTV10, he said that Kyren Lacy was over 70 yards behind 78-year-old Herman Hall's car when it collided with another car on Highway 20 in Lafourche Parish, Louisiana, right? In fact, Matt Ory's surveillance footage showed that Kyren Lacy's green Dodge Charger was well behind the car crash while traveling southbound. All right? Like, for real. Matter of fact, Kyren Lacy's car was back in his lane 92 yards behind Mr. Hall. Nearly the length of an entire football field. He was that far behind the car of Mr. Herman Hall, who ended up losing his life, right? At the time of impact, Kyren Lacy's vehicle was 72.6 yards behind the other vehicles. So how could he have caused this fatal car crash? How could he have done that? If he 92 yards behind Mr. Hall's car and 72 yards behind the car that, collided with Mr. Hall. Because they said his reckless, this is what they're saying happening. This is what they're saying. Basically, a woman hit 78-year-old Herman Hall. The woman is saying that a car was driving recklessly, which caused her to turn into Herman Hall's car, to swerve into Herman Hall's car and hit him, which led to his death. She's saying Kyren Lacy's car and his reckless driving caused her to run into Herman Hall, right? But it gets trickier really after this. We start figuring out some things. Originally, this woman says that it was a gold truck that was driving recklessly, which caused her to swerve into Herman Hall's car. She said it was a gold truck. Kyren Lacy had a green Charger, right? So first it was the gold truck that made you swerve into Herman Hall's car and unalive him. the gold car was driving recklessly at first. Then we see the gold truck was driving, what, 28 miles an hour? So he wasn't driving fast. It wasn't him. But then we figure out, because when the police officer is talking to the woman, he talking to her, they say for like 4 minutes without body cam on or anything. Then he turns the body cam on. And then her confession switches from the gold car to Kyren Lacy's green Charger. Now it's the green car that was driving recklessly. The green Charger. It wasn't the gold truck now. Now it's the green Charger that caused her to swerve into Herman Hall's car and unalive him. What convinced her to change from saying it was the gold car to saying it was now Kyren Lacy's car? But stay with me now, right? Stay with me. So, then afterwards, the police officer, I think is a state trooper. He's a state trooper. He goes and meets with the man driving the gold truck. And he's talking to him and he's trying to get him to make a statement about what happened, right? Trying to get him to make a statement. He goes to the driver of the gold car. And he basically telling him, I'm sorry, y'all, forgive me. He's talking to the driver of the gold car and the gold truck, and the driver of the gold truck says, hey, it was that woman who caused the whole accident. She caused it. The driver of the gold truck, he didn't point to Kyren Lacy's car. He didn't point to himself. He said, it was the woman behind me. It was the woman. The woman, she caused the whole accident. It was that woman who caused it. So now we're thinking, damn, was it really that woman? Because first she said it was the gold truck that caused the accident. But we find out the gold truck was only going 28 miles an hour. He was not driving fast. Then she switched her testimony. She switched her words to saying that it was the green Charger, Kyren Lacy's green Charger, that caused the accident. This woman caused this accident. She did this shit. She caused the accident. She might have been, because she was talking about she was eating some Funyuns. She gave her a statement saying she was eating some Funyuns and a car just came out and was driving recklessly and she crashed into Herman Hall. What I think happened is this woman was eating some chips or something. She dropped the bag on the floor. She crashed in and she wasn't looking. She was distracted, or she did some other stuff. She wasn't looking, wasn't paying attention, and she caused the accident. But instead of saying she did it, she's trying to find somebody else to put it on. So she initially tries to put it on the driver of the gold truck, right? The police officers say, no, we don't want it to be the driver of the gold truck. We want it to be the driver of the green Charger, which happens to be Kyren Lacy. So she switches it up in order to take the heat off of her. The police officer then goes to the driver of the gold truck trying to get a statement. He got the body cam on. The driver of the gold truck, the older black man, he said it was that woman who did this, right? It was the woman who caused the whole accident. But the police officer insists on telling him, hey, give me a written statement. And the older man, he's an older black man, the driver of the gold truck, he says, okay, I'm going to get my wife to come out here with me. And then the police officer tells him, make sure you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes to avoid the Charger, Kyren Lacy's Charger, right? Make sure you put in there that you had to slam on your brakes to avoid the Charger and that the brakes locked up to avoid that Charger. He's quoted as saying that. Make sure you put in your statement, you add in there that you had to slam on your brakes to avoid the Charger and that the brakes locked up to avoid that Charger. When the fuck is a police officer supposed to tell a person what to say when they're giving a statement? Police ain't supposed to tell you what you saw. You say what you saw. Not the police tell you what you saw and what happened. He wasn't there. They telling him to say something. You say what you say what you saw. They're telling him what he saw. You tell them you saw that green Charger. Tell them in this, make sure you add in there in that statement that you saw the green Charger. You crashed, that you was tell them that, you had to slam on your brakes to avoid that Charger. Basically telling him to say that the green Charger was driving recklessly and the green Charger caused the accident, right? And he wants the man to sign the statement. But we never see this man write the statement. We never see this man sign the statement. None of the sort. But we magically have a written statement saying that the green Charger was basically caused the accident. You know, they had to slam on the brakes because of the Charger. The Charger caused the accident. Why didn't we see this man write this statement out? Why didn't we see him sign this statement? That damn police officer, I believe the police officer wrote that statement himself. He said, okay, I'm going to write it. Since you want to get your wife and you may not feel comfortable writing this, I'm going to write the statement saying that the Charger, the green Charger did this. And we're going to put this on Kyren Lacy, right? Now, the interesting thing about this is that the woman who I believe just caused the crash on her own because she wasn't paying attention, this is, from what I understand, this is a black woman, right? So it leaves us to think, why is the police officer so after Kyren Lacy? And y'all, we gonna be real. A lot of law enforcement and a lot of these white law enforcement officers, they do not like these black high-profile athletes. They despise them. These black high-profile athletes, especially now with the NIL deals, they making more money than these police officers. They have better cars than these police officers. They are famous. They're getting a lot of attention. A lot of these police officers look at these black athletes as entitled and they don't like them. A lot of times they don't like them due to some shit that happened in high school. The black athletes was getting all the girls, or had the girl that you liked, or their girlfriends secretly liked these athletes or had a crush on the black athletes. So they got a problem with these athletes, these black athletes who are doing well and, you know, on the verge of getting drafted, on the brink of success, and they're making a lot of money and all of that, right? Because Kyren Lacy, I'm sure he was getting some nice change for an NIL deal, right? Because NIL came into play into college athletics, and players are getting paid now for their athletic prowess, as they should be. But it's a lot of law enforcement that don't like these black players getting this money because they think, oh, these players getting too uppity. Oh, I had to go to school to get this, that, and the third. I had to go through all these years of training in law enforcement, and I'm still not making the same money they're making. So they have a vendetta against these young black athletes. So it became a witch hunt for Kyren Lacy to lie on him, to make it seem like he caused an accident that he didn't cause. All right? Because this woman didn't want to take an accountability for her actions first. And the police officer, he had something against Kyren Lacy being an athlete at LSU, a high-profile athlete, young black man, driving a nice car, doing well for himself. He's a great athlete. It's time for us to throw him under the bus. Throw him under the bus. And the woman and this police officer need to be held fucking accountable. The state police need to be held accountable for their actions, because they're the reasons why this young man is no longer here on this earth. The police officer, he was trying to take this he took it to the end. Did everything he could to make sure Kyren Lacy was the one that everything was pinned on, right? And it's the thing, man. Kyren Lacy's attorney is more than fair. He say, listen, yes, Kyren did illegally pass those other cars in a no-pass zone. That is correct. But the notion that he was illegally passing at the time of the crash is 100% false. False. You know? And again, the driver of the vehicle, which hit and unalived Mr. Herman Hall, 78-year-old Herman Hall, the driver allegedly told police she had been trying to avoid a gold truck, not Kyren Lacy's lime green Charger, as had been alleged, right? Also, let me put this in there. The report from the DA claimed the state trooper speaking with their driver attempted to recap what she was saying, which seems to contradict her statements. Also, let me put it in here. Kyren Lacy, at the time of this accident, at the time that Kyren Lacy allegedly caused this accident, he had a passenger in the car with him, right? Why the fuck wasn't the passenger in the car? Why wasn't the passenger, why didn't they try to get a statement from the passenger? Why was the passenger never questioned at all after the accident? Why was that? They didn't care about what the passenger had to say. They wanted Kyren Lacy to be guilty. They wanted to get him in trouble because this police officer had a vendetta about this young man being a top tier athlete, young black man thriving. And I think he felt the way about that. He said, we want to get him. We're going to put this on him. Right? We're going to put this on him. You know? And here's the thing too, man. The last line of the report from the district attorney's office states this. The evidence submitted in the crash report does not support that Kyren Lacy should have known that his actions were the cause of the crash that happened approximately 72 yards in front of him. I'm going to read this again. The last line of the report from the district attorney's office states, the evidence submitted in the crash report does not support that Kyren Lacy should have known that his actions were the cause of the car crash that happened approximately 72 yards in front of him. So why the hell was Kyren Lacy charged? Why? See, this lets you know the justice system, is flawed. It's flawed. And when we talk about systemic racism, and when we talk about racism in this country, when these MAGA-ass conservatives try to tell black folks we lying, like they try to gaslight us into thinking that everything we're saying is a figment of our imagination, you tell them go to hell. This is a clear example of this shit. And unfortunately, you know, a black woman in this case, from what I understand, the woman who actually hit Herman Hall, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, she was a black woman. And I believe she caused the accident from not paying attention. She was a catalyst to start the witch hunt for Kyren Lacy. She was a catalyst in this because she didn't take accountability for what happened. She wanted to put it on, she was allowing it to be put on somebody else. And the state trooper or the police officer, he chose to put it on this young black man because he didn't like that this young black football player was thriving, was on the brink of success. He felt threatened by that. He didn't like it. And he chose to try to bury Kyren Lacy. And unfortunately, because of his racism, because of him framing Kyren Lacy's parents had to bury him because Kyren Lacy couldn't handle his world ending like this. It's despicable, it's foul, it's fucked up, and he need to be held accountable.